Happy Valentine's Day and welcome to the Confidence Corner. Today we're talking about personal brand. And I love this topic because, I love the fact that it fell on Valentine's Day, and that wasn't even an original thought or plan, but it's amazing how appropriate this is because I love hearts, I love pink, and I love fun glasses and fun things to accessorize with. And that's part of my brand. And the whole idea here, and welcome everybody that's joined. I love it. Great to see everybody. But personal brand is something that truly is so personal. And we've got to decide, how do we want people to experience us? Do we want people to feel drawn toward us? I don't think anybody wants us to feel drawn away from us, but sometimes that can happen. You might have an experience where perhaps you weren't on the top of your game, or maybe you were in a bad mood or something happened and you didn't come across in a way that you would have liked to. And yet people are always experiencing us. The question is, how do you want them to experience you? So this is why I love talking about personal brand, because it is such truly a personal thing, and deciding, how do you want to show up in the world? And one of my favorite questions to ask yourself is, how do I want people to talk about me when they leave the room or they leave an interaction with me, whether that's a Zoom room or whether that is in a situation where you're in person, regardless of the situation, or it could just be a phone call and all they hear is your voice. But these situations are really important to remember, that every single time we interact with another human being, that is a chance to give them an experience that we want. And then those continued experiences add up, and people decide if they trust us, if they think we're credible, and if they think that we're likable. So all of this goes back to really deciding, who do I want to be in the world, and how do I want people to talk about me or think about me? So one of the things that I'd recommend is to start by thinking about, what is your why? And that could be a big question. I love the speaker and author Simon Sinek, and he talks a lot about this, and he has a great TED Talk, by the way, called Start With Why. And really looking at, what is it that drives me? For me, I will give you an example. When I was initially starting my business, I remember thinking, okay, what is it that I want to represent in the world? And why am I doing what I'm doing? And I started thinking about it and thought, I really want women to have more confidence. Okay, well, but why? Like, starting to peel back the layers of the why and asking your questions is a really powerful exercise. And then I thought, well, because I want them to overcome self-doubt. Well, why is that? Well, because I want them to feel more equipped when they walk into a room. And yet, why is that? And when I finally got to the real why at the end of the day, you know what it is? I want women to feel free. Free from the self-doubt, free from being worried about what other people think, free from the judgment that we think people are going to have against us. And let's face it, people do judge quickly. So the question is, are you going to let that hang over you? Are you going to let that have power over you? So my goal is to make sure that people feel free enough that they are not going to let that prevent them from speaking up. And so really getting clear on, what is the reason why you're doing the things that you're doing, the choices that you're making. And this can be a really good question to ask yourself about choices, and asking, am I making the choices that are aligned with who I want to be in the world, that truly is my personal brand? And the other thing that I find very helpful is an exercise called 5 and 5. And that is where you ask 5 people that you know and trust well for 5 positive qualities or strengths about you, and ask them to give those to you totally as honestly as they could be. And it's so beautiful what you'll get back. If you pick people from different parts of your life, that can also be really interesting, because you can get a much better idea from the different areas in your life. It might be a coworker, it might be a partner in your life, it might be a close friend or family member or somebody that you volunteer with. But the more you can get different opinions, the thing that I find fascinating with this, and I've done it a number of times, is that you will generally see some themes that exist. And so any way you can think about that and start going, oh, and then you can decide, do I want to try that on? Do I like that? Do I not like that? What do I want? And you always get to decide because you have the power to choose. So for me, when I've done this a few times, and each time some version of the same thing comes out. And a few years ago, I remember I had a few people respond with saying that I make them feel comfortable. And I thought that was great. And of course it is wonderful, but I never thought about it as a business strength. And of course, now thankfully, more attention is being given to psychological safety in the work environment. And so it made me think, oh, well, I like that I make people feel comfortable because I want people to feel that they can share with me, that they feel safe with me. And that is part of my brand. So that's something that can help you get clearer on who you want to be in the world. And as I started with little things, and Bonnie, who is listening here, knows me well, I love to accessorize. So wearing fun glasses has meaning to me. I like to have some whimsical feeling around how people experience me. I like people to experience being seen, but also being celebrated and having fun all while doing that. So those are a couple things to think about. And the other thing that I love to recommend, and it doesn't feel very fun, but it can be very powerful, and that is to write your eulogy. What do you want people to say about you when you die? Now, that isn't a fun thing to think about per se, but it can be really powerful to think, okay, yeah, what would I want people to say about me? What do I want them to again, anything, write, say, talk about in any scenario. So welcome, Andrea. Great to see you. So when we can think about these things in advance, it can help us create the life that we want. And I can't think of anything more powerful than being able to create the life that we want. And one of the ways that we can do this, and by the way, it could feel daunting to think, oh my gosh, my eulogy, oh, how would I ever imagine being able to do that? So what I'd recommend is you set a time frame and you take maybe 15 minutes, set aside an hour, 30 minutes, and 15 minutes might not be very much time to write your eulogy, but you could at least get started on it. And what would you want somebody to say? And some of you here know that my mom passed away in June of 2021, and that was really sad, obviously. But what I think is really cool is that she wrote her own eulogy, and my brother read it at her funeral. And I can't think of anything more powerful than to not only write your own so you can start really making sure, is my life aligned with what I want people to say at my funeral or when I die? But in her case, it was so cool because she had that power over it. She gave 3 key points. I knew my mom was a good writer, but I had no idea how good of a writer she was until I saw her eulogy. I said, wow, she really knocked that out in a really powerful way. And it was short and concise, and it was very audience focused. So that's a great thing to think about doing. And I see what you said there, Bonnie. Yeah, I never thought about it. I know a lot of people, it isn't something that we think about too often, is it? And yet it can be a really helpful thing to do. So really understanding why you're doing what you're doing. And again, that could be a great tactical thing to ask yourself as you make choices. And one of my favorite phrases that a friend of mine mentioned a few years ago, she said whenever she makes a choice, she asks herself, especially when it's a choice, like, I don't know, let's say that you tend to eat too many sweets like I do. And you're thinking, gosh, I don't want to be this person that's always eating sweets. So the question right before you start to eat that in this example might be, how would the person do what I'm about to do right now? Or how would I messed that up. But basically, would the person that I'm becoming or that I want to be do the thing that I'm doing right now? Or what choice would they make? And when we can frame it that way, it can help us to make the best decision for ourselves that's in alignment with our brand. The last thing I want to share today is about figuring out your point of differentiation. And all this is what sets you apart from others. What is it that makes you different? Like for me, there's a million speakers in the world, but one of the things, so it just depends on my audience, depending upon what I will say, but most of the time I tell people what's different about me, even though you could get thousands of people that speak on the same content, what's different about me is that I am very conversational, even on a stage. People feel like I'm talking just to them. And that's one of the best compliments that I ever got a number of years ago. And I still cling to that because I feel like when I talk about what I do, that really is my point of differentiation. So when we can get clear on these things, it can help us be a more influential communicator in general, but it will provide clarity to you and especially the people around you. So the more that we can be clear, the better we will show up in the world, the more people around us will know what we stand for and what we don't stand for. And it simply makes for a more defined life. And when we're defined, when we make choices, we set good boundaries and people know what those are, what we say yes to, what we say no to, then we create less confusion. And I don't know about you, but being around confusion is truly frustrating. So clarity is so important. And those are really the points that I wanted to make today. So choose what you want to choose related to your personal brand. If we do a quick review here, think, how do you want to show up in the world? And are you aligned with that now? Why do you do what you do? So getting clear on your why and peeling back those layers as you ask the questions. Writing your own eulogy as an exercise. And then making sure that, now I don't even remember the last thing that I said. So I'm trying to review as I talk about these things. This is what happens when you don't use any notes. Oh, the point of differentiation. So that's what I would suggest that you think about, and also talk about it with a friend. See what they think, get input, and most importantly, make sure that you feel aligned with it and that you feel really good about it. So thank you, Bonnie. And oh my gosh, 4:13 a.m. Oh my gosh, thank you for coming in. And wonderful to see everyone. I will be here at the same time next week, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. And we will see you all then at the Confidence Corner. Take care, everybody. Bye.